Dean. I'm Stephen Carter. They also call me Black Butterfly. I'm sitting in for our regular host, Othell Owen. And we have today Black Star Still Rising. And I am your moderator tonight, and I have the very good fortune to have as my guest today, and that is Grace Winston. Grace is the Senior VP, a Senior Account Executive with WTTW and WFMT, one of my favorite stations that I listen to. And we're going to find out a very interesting experiences about her. This is Women's Month. We've got one more day left. We're going to get Grace in to talk about Women's Month and the things that have been important to you, both as your career path, which I think will be inspiration and interest to a number of young women too. Okay.
That's nice.
Grace, tell me a little bit how you got into broadcasting with WTTW.
Oh, you know what? I was lucky, actually. But you know what? From a younger age, I guess, in high school, I started thinking about what I would like to do with my life. And
when you grew up.
And yeah, exactly. You know, the ripe age of 16.
And where'd you go to school at? In the Chicago area?
I did, yep.
Okay,
Born and raised in Midlothian, on Chicago's
sure.
south side, a good old south suburb, and
What
went to Bremen High School.
Okay.
I was a Bremen Brave.
Okay.
And then went to Eastern Illinois and found out that Eastern had a pretty good broadcasting program, and they had a nice TV and radio station there. So I decided to go into that and worked at the radio and TV station there, and then really wanted to be, honestly, my goal was to be the first female sportscaster for the Chicago White Sox radio broadcast.
Go Sox!
That was.
I got you in here. The Cubs won today, but I was I'm a Sox fan since I was 10 years old.
Well, and you know what? At 7 p.m. tonight, the first White Sox game, even though it's
That's
away
right.
game,
Yeah,
but
right.
I will be
You
doing
still
that.
follow
I'll be doing
the
that.
Sox?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, never
Wait a
die.
minute, do you tolerate the Cubs, by the way?
Well,
What's your
you know
attitude
what?
about the Cubs?
Yeah, they're Chicago. We'll just put it
Okay.
that way. They're Chicago. And if we get a chance to go to Wrigley Field, it is historic. We'll go. But Sox are right here.
Okay. But continue to tell me a little bit about your career path, and how you got into radio broadcasting.
Sure. So yeah, I wanted to, like I said, that was my aspiration, and I got into the broadcasting classes at Eastern Illinois University, and it was my senior year when my wonderful teacher, Ken Bino, he approached me after class one day, and he said, "Have you ever considered getting into advertising sales?" And I looked at him and I said, "No way! What exactly? It's in my mind and estimation, that was a far cry from being able to be in broadcasting and sell it. The first thing that pops into your head is a used car salesperson." It's the equivalent in your brain.
Sales and marketing.
Exactly. I'm like, there's no way I want to do that. But he said, no. He said, you know what? I think it's something that you should consider. And then that's your foot in the door at a radio or television station. And then, maybe you can kind of navigate from there. And he was right.
Because that was a good career path choice for you.
Yes, it was a pivotal moment in my youth, in my 20s, my early 20s. And so I ended up going to Star 105.5 FM and WAIT AM 850.
I remember the call letters.
You remember the call letters? Yeah.
That.
And they had a very long-time, wonderful host named Mal Belair's.
Oh, Mal Belair's, certainly.
Remember Mal? Yeah.
I'm giving my age away too. Right?
Yeah, well,
okay.
You know what? That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
He was iconic. And my dad.
Was he a nighttime personality?
He switched around a lot through the years. Okay. But they were, they called themselves the most beautiful music. Which it was. It was lovely music, and it was relaxing
classical,
music.
Pop,
combination
of things? Or what?
No, it was a mixture of just about everything. They would play some classical, they would play some show tunes, they would play Barry Manilow and Yanni. It was a big, nice range.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Good word for it. And so I went there and started working as a junior account executive, making next to nothing, but I wanted to break into the industry. So I got a job as an account executive selling advertising for I think our units at that time were about $25 a piece. And
$25.
$25
That's
to get
lunch money today.
exactly. That's exactly
Now,
right.
what would you
That's exactly right.
tell a young woman coming along today? What path would you to get into broadcasting, whether it's video or radio or what would you suggest to them? And where would you tell them to go to study?
Well, you know what? There are now. You think about it. There are so many options for a young woman or anyone to try to break into broadcasting. I mean, when I went to Eastern, there was not a broadcasting school, here, but there are now several schools that focus on broadcasting in the
what are they?
Chicagoland
Yeah,
area. Well, of course, one that's been around for a long time is Columbia
Okay,
University.
yeah.
It's
They've
just,
had a
it's just fantastic.
strong program, yes.
Fantastic. But there is the Illinois, I'm going to get this messed up, but I think it's the Illinois School for Broadcasting in the western suburbs, and there's another one as well, and I don't recall the name. But, the biggest part, and you know this just as well as I do, is the fact that you need to continue to make more contacts and talk to people as often as you possibly can and get to know people as much as you can and always, always, always be nice.
That
Just be
helps.
nice.
Make relationships.
Make
Relationships,
relationships, exactly. It's a major part of your success. Not only, career-wise, but just in life, right? You and I were even talking about that a few minutes ago.
Go ahead.
Well, bottom line is that you think about now, there's so much views, positives, negatives on social media, and it all comes down to how it's being used, and it's a wonderful tool. It is an absolute wonderful tool for being able to reach out to people, to make connections with people, and to make impressions. And I think that's the number one key, especially for a young woman trying to break into the business, is represent yourself well. Always represent yourself well. You're going to get tempted so many times, especially as you're young and you're trying to rise up. You're going to get tempted so many ways to follow the trends, to do what your friends want you to do.
Is that one of the challenges of being in broadcast field now, and with a lot of the things, the crazy things that are going on? What's been kind of the challenge for you with the stations that you've been at, and what are the challenges for the station that you're at now that you can talk about?
Well, I would say the challenges, as far as what I do on a daily basis, is I try to get corporate underwriting.
Okay.
Corporate advertising underwriting to support our programming on PBS television
So an
and on
average day,
classical
about
radio.
how much of your time is spent in the sales, marketing, getting corporate sponsors? How much is in the programming and determining what you're going to offer the public?
Well, that's it. One of the things that I love about being at WTTW and WFMT Classical Chicago is that we are one big team, and they do. If you have an idea for something, you can walk right into a producer's office and say, I had something that came up, or and they'll listen, But it more, as far as the collaboration for programming, that's done by some award-winning people that I have the pleasure and honor of working with. But my day to day, I spend about 75% of my time each day on working with our corporate sponsors that keep our programming on the air.
Can you give us an idea of what some of the interesting things that are coming up with the WTTW?
Oh, absolutely.
And the
I know.
music in too. I keep forgetting
Yeah,
about that.
that's okay. That's okay. I know we were talking a little bit earlier that you're a big fan of Jeffrey Bear.
Yes.
And
Oh, yeah.
I am a big fan of Jeffrey Bear, as well as
I confess,
a lot of Chicago.
Yeah, right.
A lot of people in Chicago are fans of Jeffrey Bear. So we just launched on March 7th. I should know this off the top of my head. I want to say it was his 24th program, but I bet you it might even be higher. Since he's been with us at WTTW as our host, and it was the most beautiful places in Chicago.
Is that a hint? Can you get us a little early hint of what's going on and what's going to be
of what's
happening?
going on, what's next?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that one, as you can imagine, when it comes to the wonderful folks that do the writing for each one of these great documentaries.
What about picking out the spaces or the places geographically? Are you going to hit Bronzeville? Is that one of the places?
Well, that's yes, yep,
Is that a
absolutely,
secret or what?
absolutely. No. We don't keep it much of a secret. But to your point, when they are putting together the outline of where they are going to go and what they're going to discuss and what they're going to show on each of these programs, it's always so hard because Chicago, as you know, is a beautiful city.
You gave me kind of a
Amazing
lead in. I
architecture.
do have to mention our great sponsor, Black Star Project, and the program is called Black Star Still Rising. And the program, Black Star, the executive director is Grace Smith. Grace Smith.
It's like, whoa, it's another Grace.
Yeah, Gloria Smith.
There you go.
And Philip Jackson, as many of you know, was the founder of Black Star Project. But Black Star Project Rising, this program, is a result of community engagement. And over the past month or so, we've been bringing in people who talk about how to be civically engaged and how to make the best of this community that we live in. So shout out again to Gloria Smith and Black Star, our sponsor of this program, and also again back to Othel Owen, who allowed me to be the moderator today. So back to you about some of the locations in Chicago that you'll be hitting.
Oh gosh, well, we are we go all over the place. One of the places that you can imagine, just because it's close to my heart as well, is the Unity Temple in Oak Park.
Okay, I think I passed it. Yeah,
have
go
you
ahead.
passed
please,
that before?
yeah.
Yes. So that's one of the places that's first, top of mind, because we are actually going to be doing a premiere of the program and talking about the program and doing kind of a behind the scenes. I shouldn't say premiere because it already did premiere on March
Yes,
7th.
yes.
But we're going to be doing a nice talk with the producers of that program at Unity Temple sometime in the next few weeks. But it's so hard for the producers to go ahead and write that script and actually narrow down the places that should be featured because of the beauty, because of the architectural integrity of this city and its suburbs. So we couldn't keep it to just one, and now we will be doing a second most beautiful places in Chicago that will be premiering in late November.
Sounds like it was fun for the producers, for the staff, to have this vision come through and knowing that it's going to be, I'm sure, very successful. But I've got to jump to another area, well, two actually. One, I want to talk about your experience with one of the programs that you started, and that was the joy of reading. And I guess that's in my heart because I spent those years with AARP's reading tutoring program, and I tutored second graders for a 2 or 3 year period, and that was a joy to me. So tell me a little bit about the program, The Joy of Reading.
The Joy of Reading. So what we did was I started out by doing something I found out a long time ago when I first started, and now I'm in my 16th year at WTTW. I wanted to do something that was focusing on children's literacy and children's nutrition. Those were the two areas
Talk
that
about the
needed
literacy
to be.
and the nutrition, because maybe not enough talk is about the nutrition part. Tell our audience about
Well, that's how that started. So I started with something, it was called the Great Food Fan Van, and we went out to grocery stores all over Chicagoland, and we would set up, and we would have companies that wanted to support us, but also educate the parents and the children about the right decisions to make before they walked in the grocery store. We wanted to reach them at that time when they are about to make their purchasing decisions.
Okay.
And so again, it was called the Great Food Fan Van. It was literally a van that we would bring, and we would have it set up near the entrance. And we had a wonderful performer. Her name was Miss Lori of Miss Lori's Campus. And we would do some entertaining with the kids. We would give them samples of healthy, healthy food, healthy drinks. Organic Valley Family of
Do
Farms
they
was a big
talk about
sponsor.
reading labels? Because a friend of mine
Yes.
has got me reading labels to see what the sodium content is, the sugar content, and I'm much more conscious of. Talk about the importance of that.
Yes, absolutely. The label is there for a reason.
Okay.
And we would do that. And I just really encourage everyone, and I'm so glad that you're doing it as well. You don't realize how much sugar and salt is hidden in your food on a daily basis. And if you concentrate on that and you know ahead of time, you educate yourself. I mean, all you need to do is go on the internet, and find out
everything out.
more information on the internet about, making the right choices. And it doesn't have to be overnight. You can swap out, instead of, 2 or 3 days a week, instead of having a bag of chips at lunchtime, swap it out for an apple, and just do it gradually, but you'll notice an amazing change in how you feel.
I'm bothered at times. I would stop at gas stations in the morning to gas up, and I would see kids coming in there getting their breakfast at a gas station. Candy bars and those little red things. And I was just so bothered because I go back to the day when my mother was a stay-home mom, and we had a hot meal
Yes.
every day.
Yes.
And I started my cooking career like that. Because one day she didn't feel like fixing pancakes for me, so I said, "Oh, I've watched you enough. I can cook my own pancakes." So that's how I started to be a chef Cartier.
Absolutely. And that's it. That leads us to a whole different category of how parents do play a major role in being the examples in children's lives, as we know.
And understand the importance of it. That they've got to. You get so much more value when you buy and prepare foods and buy into fast food. I don't know how we can do. Go ahead.
Yes.
Excuse me for interrupting you.
No, you're not interrupting at all. It's that was one of the components of the program too, was being able to actually be there as a resource for parents and give them some ideas on making food preparation fun and how you can have your children involved. So when mom or dad doesn't feel like making pancakes that morning, you can make your own pancakes,
Right.
Or you can take, simple ingredients out of the fridge and make something fun and healthy.
So many leftovers you can use for stir fry. I get really creative.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. No, and my biggest thing, I someday in my spare time, who knows when that's going to be. Well, the thing that I like to do with my 8-year-old is look at what we have in the fridge.
Ryan's 8-year-old.
Ryan's the 8-year-old, yep. And I started to do this with the 22-year-old when he was little too, and I still do it every now and then.
Okay.
Where I will take, whatever fruits and vegetables that we have in the fridge, and you make the most beautiful smiley face on that plate you could possibly make. And believe me, you get creative and when they come in the kitchen, they sit down, even if they just say there, "I'm not hungry and I don't want to eat it," the smiley face on that plate will make them smile. And it's so fun. So I've taken a picture of my smiley face plates for several years now.
Okay, sounds like that's real creative too. That's
Yeah,
the
it's
other
gonna be fun.
aspect of you too. Okay.
It'll be fun to put all those pictures together someday.
But you know what I'm excited about getting into? I want to talk about the grandparent connection. When I saw that in your biography, and being a grandparent now, and my grandkids were living in other states at the time until they came to Chicago in the last few years. And probably my tutoring came about because I was sublimating, if that's the word, substituting really the kids that I tutored for my grandchildren. But tell me about the grandparent program, the grandparent connection. Is that the correct name
It
of
is.
it? Okay.
Yep, it is. You got it right. WTTW Kids Grandparent Connection.
Okay.
And like you, I did some research about 10 years ago and found out that such a large percentage, especially in the big cities like Chicago, we really are a melting pot. And parents and grandparents, they come from everywhere. But a lot of times, a mom and a dad will come here to Chicago, the Chicago area, for school, and then they'll meet, they'll fall in love, and they won't go back home.
Okay.
You know, and so there they are. They're here in Chicago, in the Chicago area, and they start their family. But like you just mentioned, the grandparents are far away.
Yes.
And so the children don't get a chance to really experience,
okay.
engage, exactly, and bond
Right.
with grandparents, with people that are older than them, that grandparent age. And I have to give a shout out to.
I'm glad you did, because I was going to ask you to shout out or give us some more background on how to get involved. But I still want you to
okay.
expand it. But tell our audience about how to get involved with that type of program.
Well, so what you do is, I'll go back a little bit. So the Grandparent Connection originally started before COVID, those two words
Right.
that come out so much. Originally, it started as an opportunity for children at the 2nd and 3rd grade level at Chicagoland schools to go to a nearby senior living community, a senior home or nursing home, although we don't call them nursing homes anymore, to be able to go there and just spend an hour. That's all it really takes, just to spend an hour, go in, and then we had, again, Miss Lori, who was our partner for so long for the food program and our reading program. We invited her to come. She was absolutely lovely in being able to do just simple exercises, stretching, and then we would do some bonding activities where the children would introduce themselves to the seniors. They would be paired up with the seniors. We would do some dialogic reading.
Dialogic reading, what is that?
Yes. So basically, I know it's a fancy word.
Yeah.
It's a dialogue.
Okay.
It's just starting a dialogue. So
Okay.
instead of having the child or the
Right.
senior sitting there and listening, it's engaging in a dialogue through what they're hearing being read. And so we did that, and we did it in person. And what the feedback that we were getting from the activities directors at the senior homes was that those seniors that were engaged in the Grandparent Connection events were talking about it months later. It was so influential. It was so inspiring. It brought so much joy to them.
How are the senior facilities identified? How are they identified? Which ones either?
So that's just all my digging.
Okay.
What I will do, and now we're several years into it, so now we have a lot of relationships in the Chicagoland area, not only with senior homes, but with elementary schools. We work a lot with communities and schools of Chicago. I want to give them a shout out. They're fantastic, as well as the Chicago Archdiocese. We work with both of them, and we'll work with the schools where now, because of COVID, as you can imagine, when we were doing these events in person, that all came to a screeching halt. So we still needed to do something for these seniors. In fact, I know we don't have much time, but...
We've got a couple of minutes, but tell us
Yeah.
how to get involved.
Well, how to get involved,
Give
okay.
our listening audience.
Okay, so what we do now, and we're hoping to resume in person sometime later this year or early in 2024, but how you can become involved in the Grandparent Connection and make a huge difference in a senior's life is to get creative. You can take a card, you can take a piece of blank paper, you can write an inspiring note to a senior. You can have the children in your life, and that's what we do. Have the children in your life go ahead and make a card from scratch. Grab an old piece of
What's the
paper.
response back from the kids?
Oh,
Kids that tell us a little bit about that.
They
Yeah.
love doing it. And what is so important, and this is what I wanted to touch upon, not only is it making a huge difference in the lives of seniors, because one of the effects of COVID was that seniors, so many seniors interviewed during and even after COVID, they lost somewhat of a sense of meaning. And
That the life still had meaning. Okay.
Right, exactly. And they're still going through that somewhat. So we need to bring the joy into their lives. And for the children that are doing this, the one major component about as well as so many other components of success that, for both age groups. But the children are so addicted now to instant gratification. And when they make a card or two, or write a note, or do a simple craft,
We're going to
and
wind it down
send it.
real quick.
I know.
It might be over the. Oh, it's
Oh
been
my gosh.
wonderful having Grace Winston
you.
here. And thank you for the audience. I'm glad you're here. And thank you, Othel, for letting me moderate while you're gone. And a shout out, of course, to Black Star Still Rising. And I'm your host today, Stephen, the Black Butterfly Carter.